Finally getting her turn with the Tuneup Treatment, it's the relatively niche and obscure female of the KBT series. It is KBT0A Anzudo Beetle, REGRADED, with the kit of Shoot Boost, Double Sacrifice, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Shape Memory, which equalizes total remaining HP across all parts when charging Metaforce, including, if parts are broken, she will use this to equalize HP and restore broken parts. Now, as a model that kind of breaks the mold when it comes to a lot of weaknesses that hold Sacrifice spots back, Anzudo Beetle is definitely one that decides to take that and spin it to her advantage to make it more versatile and designed for extended fights, whereas most Sacrifice models tend to fall short in this very field. Shoot Boost is a support-based skill that, when activated, will buff success and power of shooting skills by a percentage, making them deal more damage as well as more likely to hit and less likely to be dodged or grazed, which honestly works well in her favor right from start, given that Sacrifice doesn't tend to have a very high success rate and more likely to be dodged or guarded to reduce damage. Sacrifice on both arms, and she does have the shooting variant, as it is worth noting, is a damage-dealing attack that, upon use, will grant a damage bonus relative to the amount of up to half of the remaining HP of the part when attacking the target. And then, after attacking them, the part will self-destruct, as denoted by the name Sacrifice. And usually, with most Sacrifice bots, that's kind of where the end of the game is for them, as once the arms are broken, that's essentially it, and they kind of become nothing more than dead weight unless they have someone that can bring it back for them. But that's where Anzudo Beetle spins this to her advantage. Where most Sacrifice bots will have to restore one part at a time, or even not at all and resort to supportive or auxiliary combat roles, the leg ability of Shape Memory is definitely where she shakes things up for her, where after she uses both arms, she can charge Metaforce and not only get a little bit of a charge bonus out of that, as expected when you charge Metaforce, but she also will equalize her total remaining HP to bring the broken arms back. Now, it is also worth noting when doing this that it does make her squishy and easier to kill, as it does mean that she's sacrificing HP to restore broken parts. So it does make her easier to kill and more of a glass cannon, and in addition to this, it does also make her sacrifice arms deal significantly lower base damage, given that, again, they can only take so much from damaged parts that aren't at full health. That being said, it is honestly worth noting and recommended that if you are going to use Anzudo Beetle, naturally bringing along a partner that can restore lost HP will definitely be in her best interest to guarantee for a fact that even if Shape Memory has limited uses, she's going to use every last one of those uses to their fullest advantage possible. Now, when it comes to her Tuneup Treatment, Anzudo Beetle doesn't really bring anything new or game-breaking to the table. Simply put, all she really does is just reinforce what she already has, making her just a little bit tankier, and as a result, that extra tankiness means that she can deal more damage when the modifiers kick in. Her head has access to upgrades such as plus 300 to armor, plus 200 to cool, and Shoot Boost will have a modifier of boosting it up to 80% for success and power. Now, it goes without saying that Shoot Boost bonus is definitely going to be the one go-to upgrade you absolutely cannot miss out on, as that's essentially going to be a good chunk of where a lot of her bonus damage will be coming from, aside from, of course, the HP modifier. Now, after that, you could honestly go for cool or for armor. Really can't go wrong either direction, as extra armor does mean that she can last a little longer. Cool means that she'll have a faster cooldown time and she can use her arms faster. You really could go either direction with that, but the Shoot Boost modifier is the absolute go-to and must-have. Now, with both of her arms, I'm essentially going to cover both of them at once, as they have all but one upgrade that's basically identical. Both arms have access to plus 500 to armor, plus 100 to power. Her right arm has plus 50 to cool, and her left plus 50 to heat. Now, easily, that plus 50 to heat and cool really isn't anything you're going to notice, so I honestly disqualify and kind of just toss those upgrades to the side. You're really not going to use them. The big game changer here is the boost to her armor at plus 500. That is definitely going to be noticeable, and for two reasons. The first of which is the extra armor means that she's going to be just a little bit tankier across the board, and less likely that she's going to be crippled as easily. But that's twofold, as that means that as a sacrifice user, that extra armor will translate into extra power, when using them. Essentially right there, an extra plus 250 no less. Now tying that into the plus 100 or so to the power, or however many points you have left, it really goes without saying armor is an absolute must-have and go-to for both of her arms if you're going to use her. Her legs have access to plus 500 to armor, shoot resist plus 300, and she's one of those few rare biped legs that can get S-rank on 2 terrains, in this case Prairie and Arena. Now, much like any other biped leg, the S-rank on Prairie and Arena, I mean, it's nice to have. I mean, it would never hurt if you decide to go after it, but in the long run, that extra 10% bonus that you get really won't amount to too much. In contrast, and in favor of going for the plus 500 to armor, which will make it a lot easier for her to use, and the extra shoot resist will give her just a little bit more resistance and damage reduction when taking in attacks. Now, with all this extra armor though, it is also worth noting that the armor actually works threefold, now that as I take it back and amend my statement. For power and for armor for the first two, but for the third, it actually ties back into her leg ability. The more armor you have and the more HP you have, the less it's going to make, the less squishy it's going to make her when she activates it and restores broken parts. Now, with all that being said, taking in her original pure set and mixed parts scores, for her relatively solid versatility even as a Sacrifice specialized nuker, I did rate her at a 7 and a double 7 across the board for her pure set and her mixed parts scores, because her kit actually had relatively good synergy with itself, and she was one of those rare Sacrifice fighters you could actually use as a pure set and moderately leave alone without really having to pay attention to her all that much. For her new scores, taking into account her upgrades, I do have to bump her up to a very solid 7.5 across the board for both her pure set and her mixed parts. Now, even though she doesn't bring anything game-breaking or new to the table, she takes what she has and makes it better, with the extra armor and the extra base power that she can get access to, making her more of a threat on the field. And that's not also touching on the fact of the success and power bonus that the shoot boost upgrade would also grant, meaning that every hit she lands, even from turn 2 onwards after she activates shoot boost, is going to be as painful as possible, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.